Baby, if you thought this was just another rap wife family squabble, honey, you clicked the wrong video and I need you to sit down before we go any further. Because right now, at this exact moment, the man they call Papoose, Shamil Mackey, the same Papoose the internet has been begging to say something, anything, for weeks, has finally opened his mouth. And what came out was not a defense. It was not a denial. It was a chess move dressed up as a statement, and if you have not caught what he actually said between the lines, you are watching the wrong story on purpose. Claressa Shields' own blood cousin, Shalita Savage, has been out here for months laying out receipts, laying out timelines, laying out the exact way this man has allegedly positioned himself around a woman who just signed an $8 million deal, and the entire internet has been arguing about whether Papoose is a good boyfriend when the actual question, the one nobody wants to say out loud, is whether Papoose has ever been the boyfriend at all. Personally for Claressa, this is her legacy, her money, her name, everything she has built as the GWOAT sitting on the line. Culturally, this is the moment hip-hop has to decide if it is going to keep protecting the same guys it has always protected while the woman writing the check gets painted as the crazy one. And systemically, honey, this is a case study in how a rap veteran with a fading career attaches himself to a rising athlete's brand and gets everybody to call it love. When we get to the Wynn Records breakdown, and I promise you baby, we are getting there, you are going to understand why the timing of everything, the deal, the silence, the sudden statement, is not a coincidence. It is a pattern. And the pattern has a name on it. Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit like, and subscribe. Let's get into it. Now let me set this table properly for the people just walking in, because baby you cannot understand what Papoose just did unless you understand where all the pieces were sitting before he moved them. Claressa Shields is not a nobody. She is a two-time Olympic gold medalist, an undisputed world champion in 3 weight classes, the self-proclaimed and pretty accurately titled greatest woman of all time in boxing. In late 2025, she signed a reported $8 million multi-fight deal with Wynn Records and Shalita Promotions, a deal that is not just about boxing but about a full transition into music, media, and brand ownership. And standing right next to her the entire way has been Papoose, a Brooklyn rapper who built his name in the mixtape era, who was previously married to Remy Ma, whose divorce situation with Remy is still, according to Remy herself, complicated at best. So here is the picture as it existed before Shalita opened her mouth. Rising athlete, huge new business deal, older rapper boyfriend with a messy public past, and a family that from the outside looked supportive. Then Shalita Savage, Claressa's cousin, not a random blogger, not a hater in the comments, actual family, started speaking. And what she said reportedly went straight for the throat. That Papoose was allegedly using Claressa. That the divorce from Remy Ma had allegedly never actually been filed the way people were being told. That the relationship the public was seeing was not the relationship insiders knew about. That decisions inside Claressa's camp, business decisions, personal decisions, appearance decisions, were allegedly being steered in ways Claressa herself may not have fully clocked. And the family reportedly split immediately. Some sided with Shalita, some sided with Claressa, some sided with Papoose, and the group chats that used to be about birthdays and holidays reportedly turned into war rooms. The stakes here are not gossip stakes. The stakes are $8 million worth of stakes, a legacy on the line, a woman's ability to trust the people closest to her, and a hip-hop veteran's entire second act depending on how this story lands in public. And the question that has been hanging in the air, unanswered, for weeks, is simple. Why has Papoose not said anything? Because in this culture, silence from the accused is never neutral. Silence is a language of its own. And baby, Papoose was fluent in it, until he wasn't. So let us actually walk through the visible evidence, because there is more of it than the reaction channels have been showing you, and every piece of it points in the same direction. Piece number 1. The Drink Champs interview. Papoose sat down with Nore and F and talked about Claressa's $8 million Wynn Records deal like a man giving a business presentation. He talked about her being in a bidding war, he talked about strategy, he talked about knowledge. He used the language of a manager, not a boyfriend. Now on the surface, honey, that could be pride. That could be a supportive partner hyping up his woman. But listen to it again with fresh ears. He is not talking about her fights. He is talking about her contracts. He is not talking about her heart. He is talking about her leverage. When your boyfriend describes your business deal with more precision than your agent, baby, you do not have a boyfriend. You have a stakeholder. Piece number 2. The Claressa Shields livestream where she went off on Shalita. She called her cousin worse than Glorilla. She laughed. She trolled. She defended Papoose specifically and directly, and she doubled down on the idea that Papoose is going to be the father of her children. Now Claressa is a grown woman, and she is allowed to defend her man. But watch how the defense keeps returning to Papoose's name unprompted. Watch how many times the man's reputation shows up in a live stream that started as a response to a cousin. This is not the pattern of a woman casually dating. This is the pattern of a woman who has been briefed on the narrative. Piece number 3. The BET Awards footage. 2026 BET Awards, Claressa and Papoose walked the carpet together, and the internet immediately clocked that Papoose looked stiff, uncomfortable, distant. His body language was not the body language of a man in love. It was the body language of a man doing an appearance. And the reaction was so loud that Claressa herself had to come out and address why Papoose was not smiling. Baby, when your girlfriend has to publicly explain your face, something is off. Piece number 4. Papoose's own admission on record that he and Claressa do not live together, that there is no engagement, and that despite him being called her husband constantly by fans and by Claressa herself, the actual legal and physical arrangement of this relationship is significantly more distant than the public performance suggests. He said it himself. He does not live with her. There is no ring. There is no marriage certificate. And yet the visibility is constant. Baby, that gap between what is being shown and what is actually structured is not an accident. That gap is the strategy. Every piece of evidence I just laid out is publicly available. Every piece is verifiable. Every piece points to the same underlying reality, that this relationship, as it has been presented to the public, is not the relationship as it exists behind closed doors. And that is before we even get to the cousin. And oh, honey, do I have more? Because if you thought the Drink Champs interview and the BET carpet were the loud pieces, baby, we have not even walked into the room where the loud pieces live yet. What is coming next is the part that made Papoose's people reportedly start making phone calls. What is coming next is the part the reaction channels keep skipping because they either do not have the sources or they are scared of the smoke. If you are on Team Papoose right now, this is the moment you need to hold on to something, because the next section is where the picture stops being a rumor and starts being a receipt. And I need you in the comments telling me right now, are you Team Claressa, Team Papoose, or Team Wait and See? Because after what I am about to walk you through, I do not think wait and see is going to be an option much longer. Now let us get into the cultural layer, because this is where the fingerprints get harder to wipe. Shalita Savage did not just drop one bombshell and disappear. She has reportedly been consistent for months. She sat down for multiple interviews, she went live multiple times, she named specific claims about Papoose allegedly never having actually filed for divorce from Remy Ma in the way the public was led to believe, she made claims about Claressa's fertility that were incendiary and personal, and she made claims about how Papoose has allegedly positioned himself financially around Claressa's rise. Now some of Shalita's claims, the surrogate and fertility angles, are the kind of claims that make people dismiss the entire messenger, and I want to acknowledge that. Reasonable people can look at Shalita and say the delivery has been messy. The delivery has been personal. The delivery has crossed lines. And I hear that. But baby, here is what a lot of people are missing. Messy messengers can still be delivering real information. The delivery does not determine the truth. The evidence does. And Shalita's claims about Papoose specifically, the ones about his positioning, his behavior, his alleged strategy around Claressa's brand, have been consistent, detailed, and backed up by insiders who have reportedly said versions of the same thing. Then you have Remy Ma. Remy Ma, honey, the woman who was actually married to this man, publicly claimed that Papoose was stalling their divorce, that he had multiple side situations, that the picture the public was being sold was not the picture she lived inside. And when Remy said that, Claressa's response was to dismiss it. Claressa trolled the fans who brought it up, she made light of it, she never actually addressed the substance of what Remy said. That is not the behavior of a woman who has looked at the paperwork. That is the behavior of a woman who has been told not to worry about the paperwork. Then you have Fat Joe. Fat Joe and Papoose have been in their own quiet public tension, and the timing of that beef with everything else happening is not coincidental. Industry insiders talk to each other. When Fat Joe, a man who has been in this business for 30 years and has seen every version of this movie, starts having friction with Papoose right when the Claressa deal is heating up, that tells you something about how the industry is reading Papoose's positioning. Then you have the reaction from other veterans in the culture. Podcast hosts, DJs, longtime hip-hop journalists have been increasingly direct in their commentary, and the tone has shifted. 6 months ago, the coverage was congratulatory. Now the coverage is skeptical. That shift did not happen because the internet is bored. That shift happened because the people with sources started hearing the same thing Shalita was saying, just from different rooms. And finally, honey, look at Claressa herself. Look at the pattern of her responses. She is not calm. She is not measured. She is reactive, she is defensive, she is going live to laugh at accusations rather than to address them, and every time she goes live, she leaves more of the story exposed than she covers. A woman who was truly secure in what was happening behind closed doors would not need to perform security this loudly. This is a woman who is fighting off a feeling she cannot yet articulate, and she is doing it publicly because the people around her have not given her the space to do it privately. Now I want to be fair. There is a counter-argument here, and it is worth naming. The counterargument is that Claressa is a grown woman, a champion, an intelligent adult who has managed her own career for years and does not need anybody to protect her from her own choices. And that is true. That is completely true. But baby, the ability to make your own choices does not mean every choice you make is being made with the full picture. The most dangerous manipulations in this culture are not the ones where the woman is stupid. They are the ones where the woman is brilliant, and the person next to her is quietly editing what she sees. That is not a Claressa problem. That is a systems problem. And now we have to talk about the system. Pattern interrupt. Stop thinking about this as a family drama. Stop thinking about this as a relationship. Stop thinking about this as a cousin problem or a girlfriend problem or a rapper problem. Because what is actually happening here, honey, is a case study in how the modern attention economy fuses celebrity, sports, music, and business into a single monetizable product, and how the people positioned closest to the product can extract enormous value while doing very little of the actual work. Let me walk you through 3 systemic angles here that nobody in the reaction space is naming, because the reaction space does not think about systems. The reaction space thinks about drama. But you did not come here for drama. You came here to understand what is actually happening. Angle 1. The brand marriage economics. When a rising athlete signs a multimillion-dollar deal that includes music, media, and promotional components, the value of every person adjacent to that athlete goes up. The boyfriend's Instagram follower count matters. The boyfriend's press access matters. The boyfriend's ability to book joint interviews matters. Every appearance, every carpet, every podcast becomes a shared asset. And in the Wynn Records deal specifically, which fuses boxing and music, a rapper adjacent to the athlete is not just a boyfriend. He is a strategic complement to the deal structure. Papoose is not sitting next to Claressa on Drink Champs by accident. He is sitting there because his presence adds value to the property being built. The problem is when the value being added is not proportional to the value being extracted. And baby, right now, on paper, Claressa is doing all the work and Papoose is doing all the standing. Angle 2. The divorce economics. This is the piece the reaction channels will not touch because it is legally sensitive, but I'm going to touch it carefully. Remy Ma has publicly claimed that the divorce between her and Papoose has been stalled. Shalita has claimed the same thing from a different angle. If either or both of those claims are accurate, and I want to be extremely clear, these are allegations, these are reportedly claims, these are not confirmed legal outcomes, the implications are significant. Because it means every public appearance Claressa and Papoose have made as a couple has been happening in a legal gray zone. It means the family conversations about babies, about marriage, about the future, have been happening while a foundational legal question remains unresolved. And it means the person allegedly with the most to lose from that ambiguity being clarified is not Claressa. It is Papoose. Because as long as the situation remains ambiguous, he retains optionality. He is close enough to Claressa's brand to benefit from it, and legally distant enough to protect himself if it collapses. That is not romance. That is portfolio management. Angle 3. The narrative infrastructure. This is the one that keeps me up at night, honey. Because when Shalita started speaking, the response was not just Papoose staying quiet. The response was a coordinated softening of the story across every platform. Reaction channels started framing Shalita as unstable. Podcast interviews started leaning sympathetic to Papoose. Comment sections started filling with the exact same talking points. That is not organic. That is narrative infrastructure at work. The hip-hop media ecosystem has a very old habit of protecting its own, especially its own men, especially against black women speaking uncomfortable truths. This is not a Papoose invention. This is an industry pattern that goes back decades, and Papoose is simply operating inside a system that was already built to catch him if he fell. Which is why Shalita's specific claims, whatever you think of her delivery, are threatening in a way that gets systemically neutralized rather than substantively addressed. Nobody is disproving her. They are just discrediting her. And there is a very big difference between those two things. 3 angles. Brand economics, divorce economics, narrative infrastructure. All 3 of them lead to the same conclusion. That the story you are being told about Papoose and Claressa is not the story being lived. It is the story being managed. And when a story is being managed this carefully, honey, somebody is paying for that management. The question is who? And the deeper question, baby, is why. Now here it is. The moment I promised you at the top of the video. The truth bomb that connects every piece of evidence, every insider report, every family claim, every business filing, every awkward carpet moment into a single picture. When Papoose finally broke his silence, honey, he did not break it to defend Claressa. He broke it to protect his positioning. Because insiders have reportedly been saying for months that the actual arrangement between Papoose and Claressa is not what the public has been sold. That the relationship, whatever it is emotionally, has functioned in practice as a business alliance, with Papoose reportedly involved in decisions about Claressa's brand, her Wynn Records rollout, her public appearances, her media strategy, at a level far deeper than a supportive boyfriend would ever be involved. And when Shalita Savage, the cousin, the family member, the person who has known Claressa since before any of this, started saying out loud what people inside the camp had reportedly been whispering, the entire structure came under threat. Because Shalita was not just accusing Papoose of being a bad boyfriend. She was allegedly identifying a pattern. And the pattern, according to her and to the insiders who have echoed pieces of what she has said, is that Papoose has allegedly positioned himself around Claressa in a way that maximizes his access and his upside while minimizing his exposure and his accountability. That when Claressa wins, Papoose wins. That when Claressa is in a bidding war, Papoose is standing right there. That when Claressa signs an $8 million deal, Papoose is on Drink Champs explaining the strategy. But that when the questions get uncomfortable, when the cousin speaks, when Remy Ma alleges, when the paperwork gets asked about, Papoose goes silent. Because silence is the only position that costs him nothing. And when he finally spoke, honey, he did not speak to answer the questions. He spoke to reframe the questions. His statement was calm, measured, careful, and specifically designed to shift the story from what is Papoose actually doing to why is everybody around Claressa acting so crazy. That is not a denial, baby. That is a redirection. And a man who is innocent does not need to redirect. A man who is innocent tells the truth once and lets the truth stand. Papoose has not done that. Papoose has not once, in this entire cycle, sat down and said clearly, on record, what his actual legal status with Remy Ma is, what his actual involvement in Claressa's business affairs is, what his actual position in the Wynn Records deal structure is. He has not done any of it. Because the moment he does any of it, the ambiguity that has been protecting him disappears. And the ambiguity is the asset. Baby, that is the truth bomb. The ambiguity is the asset. Everything about Papoose's public behavior in this cycle, the silence, the calm, the redirection, the carefully worded statement, is in service of preserving ambiguity. Because as long as the picture stays blurry, he stays in position. And the moment the picture gets clear, whatever the truth actually is, his position changes. That is not love, honey. That is not partnership. That is not devotion. That is leverage. And Claressa Shields, the GWOAT, the champion, the woman who has beaten every opponent the world has put in front of her, may be about to face the hardest fight of her life. Because this opponent is standing inside her own house. But here is the part that I need you to hold on to, because I do not want you leaving this video hopeless. Claressa Shields is not a woman who loses. She is not a woman who gets played out permanently. She is a woman who has faced down every version of doubt, every version of dismissal, every version of the world telling her she was not enough, and she has broken every single one of those narratives with her fists. And she is going to break this one too. Because here is what I know about people like Claressa. They do not stay confused for long. They may be defensive right now. They may be reactive right now. They may be publicly protecting somebody who does not deserve that protection right now. But the same instincts that made her the greatest woman boxer of all time, the ability to read patterns, the ability to see the punch before it lands, the ability to adjust in real time, those instincts do not turn off in her personal life. They just take a little longer to activate. And when they activate, honey, this is going to be over. Because Claressa is already starting to move differently. If you watch her recent live streams closely, you can see the shift. There is defensiveness, yes. But underneath the defensiveness, there is also observation. She is watching. She is listening. She is filing things away. She may not be ready to say publicly what she is starting to see privately, but the seeing has started. And once a woman like Claressa starts seeing, honey, the seeing does not stop. The $8 million deal is hers. The championship belts are hers. The legacy is hers. The name is hers. Nothing about her fundamental position depends on Papoose. And when she realizes that fully, when the last piece of the picture clicks into place for her, the correction will happen fast. Because that is who she is. She corrects fast. She adjusts fast. She moves on fast. Papoose is standing in a house that he does not actually own. And the woman who owns the house is starting to notice. One person built an empire with their bare hands and their sweat and their blood. The other person walked into that empire and started acting like the landlord. And baby, only one of those two people has a lease. The right person is still winning. The right person is still standing. The right person still holds every belt, every deal, every dollar, every piece of leverage that actually matters. And when the dust settles on this cycle, and it will settle, sooner than the drama channels want it to, Claressa Shields is still going to be the GWOAT, and the people who tried to attach themselves to her legacy without doing the work are going to be exactly where they started. On the outside, looking in. But honey, this is only the beginning. Because there are two things I am watching for in the next few weeks, and I need you subscribed so you do not miss either one of them. The first thing is the paperwork question. If Remy Ma or her legal team decides to publicly clarify the actual status of the divorce, the entire narrative infrastructure Papoose has been standing on collapses in a single afternoon. That could happen tomorrow. That could happen next month. But when it happens, it is going to be a moment, and I am going to be here to break it down piece by piece the way nobody else in this space will. The second thing is Claressa herself. Because I'm telling you right now, watch her next 3 live streams. Watch her next interview. Watch the small stuff, the pauses, the word choices, the moments where she almost says something and pulls back. That is where the shift is going to show first. And when the shift becomes a decision, when Claressa Shields decides that the person standing next to her is not the person who should be standing next to her, that is going to be one of the biggest cultural moments of the year. And I am going to be here for it. If you have made it to this point in the video, baby, you are one of my day ones, and I appreciate you more than you know. Drop your final take in the comments, Team Claressa, Team Papoose, or Team Keep Watching, because I read every single one, and the best comments are going to shape the next video. And speaking of the next video, honey, you need to see what I have coming for you next. Remy Ma has been sitting on something. She has not said all of it yet. She has not dropped all of it yet. But the pattern of her recent posts, the tone of her recent interviews, the timing of her recent silences, all of it is pointing toward one specific moment that I believe is about to drop. And when it does, everything you just watched is going to look like the appetizer. Click the next video. Do not walk away from this story yet. Because the tea is hot, and honey, it is only getting hotter. I'm gonna see you in the next one.